Today we will be learning more about programming using Python. In particular, we will learn about functions and loops. We will also learn about putting our code into files so we can save them for later. In order to create a function, you must use the def keyword. Python requires you to indent to keep the function commands grouped under the first line. In this example, the function is called add and expects two variables, a and b. The next line adds the two numbers together and returns the result. This function can now be used over and over with different numbers. This is a simple example, but if we had a more complex function, it would save us a lot of coding every time we used it. Let's look at another example. See if you can figure out what this function does. This function requests the user's name and returns it after it says hello to that user. Note that this function does not need any parameters. The user is asked their name by using the input command, and the result is stored in the variable name. We then use the print statement to display a message using the user's entered name. And finally, we send back the name using the return command. This can be used immediately or saved to a variable for later. It gets tiresome writing your functions this way. Plus, when you shut down your Python shell, you lose all your work. Wouldn't it be nice to have a way to save and retrieve your work? Well, you can using files. When you open Python, you have an option to create or open a file. On Windows, you will open idle and click the File menu and select New File. If you are on Android, you will open QPython, then swipe left and select Editor. Now you can type your code in this editor and save it. You can restart the shell to automatically load your file by going to Shell Restart in Windows or tapping the play button in Android. Make sure you save before you restart the shell. Now we will talk about loops. Loops allow you to run the same code until a requirement is met. This could be a certain number of times or waiting until something happens. In Python, we deal with two kinds of loops, the for loop and the while loop. While in many cases you can use these interchangeably, the for loop is usually used to go through a list of numbers or objects. The while loop allows more control. The for loop is often used to run through to a specific value. You use a variable to run through a series of objects. This is often a range of consecutive numbers. Let's look at an example. If we want to print out the numbers 1 to 10, we can do this way. But that is a lot of code which cannot be easily changed. Instead, we can use a for loop to take care of this. If we want to change this in the future, all we need to do is adjust the number in the range. Notice that we had to use 11 to make the 10 print out. The last number in the range must be one higher. The while loop is more open-ended. You must dictate the end condition and are responsible for advancing the loop to completion. Loops which never end are called infinite loops. This happens when the condition is never met and the code keeps running, usually causing the program to appear stuck. Here is an example of the while loop. It will accomplish the same result as the last example. We are going to use the variable I to tell whether we should stop the loop, and we will start it with the value 1. This line is the loop command, checking if the variable I has reached 11 yet. This prints out the value of I. This line adds 1 to the variable. Since this is a properly constructed loop, it will work fine, but if the while condition is never met, then we would have an infinite loop.